February 9, 1886. Halley's Comet last appeared in the inner solar system. It's scheduled to return to Earth in 2061, presumably opening by saying, "What happened, girl? You look like shit."
Welcome to The Revisionists. I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
And our guest is wonderful, and I'm so glad to finally, after way too long, get her on the show. Please welcome Gabby Gutierrez-Reed, everyone.
Hi.
Hey, thank you for being here. Listeners, I just want to start out by saying I have had food poisoning for a week. So my brain is kind of shot right now.
Now, you might be saying, usually food poisoning lasts like a day, maybe two, but Brian opened up that case of old fish heads and he was like, I could have just one more. The last one was bad, but surely this one.
Well, hope springs eternal, Zach. That's the thing.
I see that it's still, in fact, in your room.
Mm-hmm. It's still, in fact, in my mouth, actually.
It smells really bad.
Yeah, the odor is literally visible via webcam.
Yeah, it's wavy lines coming up.
There's green.
Yeah, it's a classic pig pen. Yeah.
So, anyway, Zach, what do we do on this here program?
This is a podcast all about how history got turned upside down. So if you'd like to take a minute, just sit right there and I'll tell you all about how something, the revisionists. Okay. On this podcast, we each week look at a person or event from history. And one person gives the true, actual account of that person or event. And then one person gives the fresh take on that person or event.
Fresh.
And at the end of the episode, we vote on what becomes the true history of this brilliant, blue, spinning, azul marble going forward.
That means blue, right?
Was that just for me? Because
I have to switch it up sometimes. I've been saying blue marble. Like, I have to add... I'm trying to add, adjectives or change what I say a little bit.
Blue?
God damn it.
Last time we talked about famous person who got lost, Amelia Earhart. We actually didn't. We talked about somebody else. But we're recording in advance, so we have the results for the Amelia Earhart episode and not the Corbett episode.
Yes.
And the results are that the alternate history won. Now, this was like 3 or 4 weeks ago, so I do not remember.
And you wrote it, also.
Oh, I did, right. It wasn't Wizard of Oz.
It had a Brigadoon thing.
Right, they went to Brigadoon, and then they stole a boat, and then she became... Oh, it was Odysseus after that?
Yeah, there was some Odysseus in there, too, yes.
And then she became the news person, the weather person on the Denver local news.
Oh, yeah. Thank you to Lizzie Wolfson for that. And stay tuned next episode for the results of Boston Corbett.
This is like that... Do you remember the pre-taped call-in show bit from Mr. Show?
Yes.
Increasingly, this is going to become like that.
Listen, listeners, if you're voting on Amelia Earhart, you are a week too late. We are voting on Boston Corbett right now. Of course, if
and this week's episode is about Thomas Lay, so don't vote on Thomas Lay. It's too early. We're still voting on Boston Corbett. But by the time you're hearing this, it will be time to vote for Thomas Lay.
Yeah, damn it, because this is not going out live. Damn
it. And I will probably be dead.
Yeah, no, we'll all be dead in different ways. So.
Yeah. I assume you will either be a ghoul or a super mutant, but we accept votes from both of those factions, so please feel free.
The Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, we accept votes from. The X-Men, of course, X Factor, we accept votes from.
Sure.
The Mojoverse.
But not vampires.
Not vampires, no, unless they complete a re-entry program. And,
or if they were grandfathered in, there is a...
Yeah.
And vampires can serve as their own grandfather, of course.
Really, it doesn't have to be like a Herman Munster situation.
No, yeah. Assuming they're old enough, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or like the fucking old dude from Lost Boys.
If you were turned in the 1800s, you can get out of here with that shit, but 1600s, maybe we could talk.
Yeah.
Oh god, one of my classes this semester is just called vampire films, and I already looked
Right,
at
I think that's a marathon you skimmed across on TCM one night while you were sick with food poisoning.
Oh my god, that'd be amazing.
Oh my god, there's so many vampire films.
I know. I'm like week 8, I think, is when we're doing Lost Boys, which I'm very excited for, and then Near Dark is the week after that. So that 2-week set is going to be real fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
But
And then the other 16 weeks are just the She-Vampires of the SS series.
Yeah.
Run back to back.
Yeah, no. Yeah, surprisingly, no Vampiros Lesbos or any of the like weird erotic vampire movies from the 80s.
Queen of the Damned?
No, damn.
Aaliyah's amazing breakout role.
R.I.P. Aaliyah.
Yep.
Well, maybe you get some interview with the vampire.
That is on the syllabus.
Really?
Mhm.
That's great.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, get some Kirsten Dunst, like classic kitty Kirsten Dunst being like,
Oh,
"What did you do to me?"
My favorite part about vampire movies in the 90s is the music.
Oh god, yeah. Oh, I'm so excited for that. But this isn't a vampire podcast. Listeners, this is
I mean, but I do now want to make like an era specific vampire, like one vampire film from each decade. So it's like The Lost Boys, and then Interview with the Vampire, and then it'd have to be Twilight, and then like Let the Right One In.
Wait, did Twilight come out of the 2000s or did it come out of the 2010s?
Oh, the first one definitely came out before 2010.
2000s.
Okay, cool.
I read a lot of those books. I'm not proud of it.
I mean, it's fine.
It's fine.
I'm past the point of like shaming people for like reading that.
I think I was
Those-
like 13 or 14.
Yeah, that's the perfect age to
12?
read that.
I don't...
Yeah.
Those books were very popular while we were in high school, and we're like that old where we say we're old, but we're still not actually old yet. That
Oh,
era
yeah.
of old.
Oh yeah, that age where it's not at all irritating to
Right.
people to be like, I'm old.
And I was like too young because like I was like, oh, I'm too young for these vampires.
Oh yeah, they're all their canoodling
Yeah.
and their well, I don't want to get into explaining
Yeah.
what's what.
Nope. It's
Yeah, like it's the era where like now, how long is it going to be before like people on the internet are like, I'm old, I remember 9/11, and then the cool kids are like, never forget, we never knew in the first place, motherfucker.
Yeah, and then they pop open their fucking Smirnoffs and skateboard away. Yeah.
Ooh.
Oh, I don't know what cool children do. If you're a cool child and you're listening to this,
Why? You are not a
Why?
cool child.
You're not cool anymore.
yeah, tell your friends about us.
You've lost.
Give us some of your cultural cachet.
You are like all of us as children where you believe you're cool, but will eventually look back and be like, oh, wait.
Are you smoking cloves? Yes, you are. Are you waiting for play rehearsal to start? Very close to home.
Anyways, this episode, which of course we're recording live at Paris on the Platte while smoking cloves,
Deep cut.
Oh,
is about...
I miss that place.
Oh, I do not miss that place at all.
You don't? What did you do there?
Smoked cloves, mostly.
Yeah, cloves.
Is about Thomas Lay. And I believe that Gabby's going to give us the real history, correct?
Yeah.
And then Brian will give us, as we say, the fresh version.
So fresh.
Hey there, this is Brian reminding you that The Revisionist is supported by listeners just like you. You can make a pledge and get rewards like shirts and even the right to vote over at patreon.com/therevisionists.
So I think, without further ado, if we're all ready, should we jump into the history of one Thomas Lay?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. We're jumping in. Let's get cold and then warm. Okay. So, Thomas Lay, he's a real guy, you know, just one of those guys.
I'm glad Brian picked a real person this time.
Yeah.
He's been
I saw his picture and I thought his like face looked like Val Kilmer, or like it was really squashed, you know?
Yeah, he looks like, no, he is definitely like the Stretch Armstrong version of Val Kilmer.
I can't tell you how many times Brian has picked a topic for us. Like, out of every episode that gets released, there's 10 where it's like, the topic this week is Kirby. And it's like, Brian, no. Kirby ain't real.
This week we're going to be talking about the Noid.
To be fair, we did talk about the Noid a lot recently.
Did we? Oh, that in the fucking fuck shit. That was Shackleton one.
Help the fuck shit.
Although I think that was mostly Pepsi Man, R.I.P.
Anyways, yeah.
Rest in Pepsi.
All right, this guy, he was born in England, in Bath, on October 29th, 1880. I'm ashamed. I'm a Libra. This guy is a Libra. Fuck that. He's ruining us.
Not all Libras. Hashtag.
He could have had the decency to wait a few days and become a Scorpio at the very least.
Exactly. This is just messed up.
And let me tell you, classic Scorpio.
His dad was a successful butler, but he...
What does that mean in context?
He was, doing good. He worked.
He was
in all
racking up Winstons every year at
he
the
worked
international.
in all the fancy houses. He probably snuck a few scones here or there.
He won like 10 years straight the title of Mr. Belvedere, I think.
Yeah, it was on point.
Butler Monthly, he was on there every week.
He was always
fancy.
Butt fancy. Butlers Anonymous. But then he died when Thomas was 2, no longer, leaving him with a father as a successful butler. And he left behind 4 children. I didn't read anything else about his siblings. I don't know why I didn't look that up. But apparently he had them, and they probably all hid because they were ashamed of him. His mother's name was Elizabeth, and after his father died, they weren't really doing well, so they ended up moving to Australia because of its booming economy in the 70s and 80s. 1870s and 80s.
It's booming economy, and I assume, spider leather or something?
Yeah, there was less cocaine. That's what I'm saying. And he went to school for a while, but at 10, he had to leave his Crown Street public school so he could help his mom at the grocery store. At her grocery store? She might have owned a grocery store.
At a grocery store of unknown provenance.
Yes. And after that, he kind of kept working. He went to work on a dairy farm in Windsor, which is a small town. And later he would run newspapers and messages to people. And the thing about that is he kind of got into reading the political articles in the newspapers that he was delivering. So he'd, he just got fancy with his ideas. He wanted bigger things in life. He wasn't okay with where he was. So he'd sit in the gallery at the Parliament to hear political debates. And he got really interested in politics because of the powerful, influential people that were in politics. So he kind of had his eyes set on that and made that a goal. So he thought that successful politicians would be really good at talking. So in 1896, he
Not
joined.
necessarily, as we have learned.
Nope. That's what he thought. Not true.
That was 19th century politics. This is the 21st century.
Yeah, they had to be good at talking sometimes. But he joined the Sydney Mechanic School of Arts to develop his debating skills. I don't know if it's a good school or not, but he did it. And,
total safety school.
Yeah, total safety school. He got denied from all the others. Then he became a junior clerk in a local solicitor's office in Sydney. So that was the start of his partial solicitor career. And then he was going to night school to study law. So here's the thing. He got lonely. So in 1898, he married Emily Lewis Stone, and she was the daughter of a wealthy Somerset doctor. And he just wanted
Which is a rank below butler, I believe.
Exactly, yeah. Nobody reads Doctor's Magazine. Nobody does that. And yeah, I think she had a good life, but I think marrying him was a big mistake. Yeah, it's actually sad. I don't know why you're laughing.
It was more the delivery than anything else.
But she ended up in Australia because her father died too, which isn't funny either. So that's how she ended up there. But
I mean, it's kind of funny that it's like, well, parents are dead.
Yeah,
Might as well go to Australia.
might as well. Somehow they lived with her mother. I don't know if she was already there. Like they all migrated there together. But in 1901, Leigh took a job at a law firm in the center of Sydney. So he's like kind of getting into what he wanted to do. And then in 1906, his wife gave birth to 3 sons. And I didn't read about them either, but they were either little shits or they were amazing and they didn't care about their father. I don't know.
They're either the kind of kids who get turned into giant blueberries or the kind of kids who inherit a chocolate factory.
Exactly.
And never
Yeah.
the twain shall meet.
That's from your parenting book, The 2 Kinds of Kids.
Yep. And the chocolate factory.
Which, by the way, the fact that got put out of print for plagiarism is bullshit. I just have to say.
Listen, buddy, we're on your side. We're there for you. If you need me at the court date, I'm there.
And I'm more than happy to take on the estate of Roald Dahl at any time.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yeah. Noted anti-Semite Roald Dahl. Come and get it.
Oh, my God. Let's see. Leigh, you know what? He, again, wasn't getting what he wanted. It wasn't good enough. So he moved to a developing southern Sydney suburb. Say it 3 times. Southern Sydney suburb. Hurstville. And I guess that was like kind of a hub for politicians. And so in order to become a politician there, you had to be like 3 things. You had to be a churchgoer, a family man,
And a vampire?
A vampire who... I will stop myself from... and you like had to be a part of the temperance movement, which is super lame. So
That's like the opposite of a vampire. That's like, I guess not, because vampires don't drink wine. So vampire, yeah, a vampire still.
Yeah, exactly. For those of you who don't know what the temperance movement is, they don't like it when you drink alcohol. So, yeah. He actually got elected within 5 months that he was there. So, you know, do what you gotta do and you can be a politician.
Yeah, do the do instead of drinking a little hooch. I couldn't think of a good alcohol.
Yeah.
Seltzer
that was his,
water.
His campaign slogan, of course. Do the do instead of drinking a little hooch.
Yep,
Was-
do the do. You don't put that hooch in your mouth.
Hooch, of course, being Australian for a terrifying snake.
Yep. Get that snake out of here. Okay.
Yeah, the hooch comes in the night and takes your children.
Oh, God. No hooch for him. He ended up serving on council committees dealing with parks and gardens, rates and levies, and bylaws and street maintenance. So, you know, he was doing some pretty important things. Whether it was good, I don't know. I don't know. In 1914, Leigh, he became a solicitor himself. So, for those of you who don't know what a solicitor is, I'm just listing all the things I had to look up. That's what happened. It's a lawyer. Okay. So he gained more credibility within the politicians community, and it was kind of like getting hard to gain traction still. Like, I don't know if he wanted to face it or not, but people didn't really like him. So, that's just my opinion. That is not true. I don't know if that's true. So he lost an election to be mayor in Hurstville. So instead, he decided to focus on state politics. So when you fail, just do something else until somebody says okay.
I mean, that is like kind of good advice, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like these weird sort of strange posters you see in like a children's library that you're coming up with.
When you fail, don't give up. Just try something else. And if you're mediocre at it, someone will be okay with you being in the room.
I just think it has to end with I think it has to end with until somebody says okay.
Until somebody says okay. Even if it's your therapist. Okay. In 1917, he was elected to state parliament as a National Party member for Hurtsville. And he was still going with the prohibition thing, member of the Temperance Party, another term, a teetotaler. That's a fun one. So one article said that he was called Lemonade Lay, but I'm pretty sure he gave himself that own nickname.
Mm-hmm.
So he called himself Lemonade Lay. I don't know why. Just sometimes he's a little sweet. Sometimes he'll squeeze lemon in your eyes.
It could be like a discontinued soft drink, but it also could be like an Urban Dictionary thing that you don't want to look up.
Oh, God. Don't get on that Lemonade Lay train. You're going to be late. Okay.
You're going to be lemonade late. Sorry.
You're going to be lemonade late if you stick with Lemonade Lay.
The main concern for most weird sex acts is becoming late. And not in the pregnant sense, just like missing your train.
Yeah, you're going to miss the train. And you won't have an alliteration if you call it something else. He just really liked the color yellow. But his real nickname was actually, like, the one people gave him, was the Hanging Minister, because he was super enthusiastic about the death penalty. So that's what people really thought about him. He actually didn't have, like, when he was in Parliament, he didn't have any intention of passing laws to ban alcohol. And he was actually taking bribes from lobbyists on behalf of brewing companies. So he was just a straight up liar. You know, real shady guy.
Mm-hmm. And it gets shadier also, so...
Yeah, we're not even...
It'd be terrible if this very pro-death penalty person committed a crime that might warrant the death penalty.
Damn it!
I couldn't handle the irony of that happening.
Yeah, no way. Who likes to talk about foreshadowing? Okay. There's a quote from a parliament member, a New South Wales parliament member called Jack Lang. I just thought it was kind of a fun one. He said, "We believed he was not only mad, but bad."
Oh.
I thought you just had to be bad at your job to go away. He was mad as well. He ended up joining the Progressive Party in 1919 when it split up from the Nationals. So, you know, getting into that liberal bullshit. In 1920, he was elected as a progressive member for St. George. And when the parties rejoined again, he became Minister of Justice. So he had some type of power, which was kind of lame. A really sad story. Like, he rejected the appeal of someone who was facing the death penalty. His name was Edward Williams, and he was a poor music teacher, but he was sentenced to death for, like, murdering his 3 daughters. So the community was like, he's crazy. And there was evidence that he was actually crazy, but Lay was like, no, he's gonna die. But I don't know how I feel about that one, because he killed his 3 daughters. So.
Yeah, kind of buried the lead a little bit.
Yeah. The sentence starts with, he didn't accept an appeal, and then it ends with, killed his 3 daughters.
Although, of course, if he was unfit to stand trial, that's a different thing. But also,
right, yeah. So Lay wanted even more power. He wanted to become the prime minister. So he ended up resigning from his state seat to stand for the federal government of Barton in 1925. And he was running against this guy, Fred McDonald, the old Fred McDonald. And he tried to bribe him to throw the race, so to run, but just not win. And he was like, that's ridiculous and illegal. And he ended up beating him anyways. So Fred was pretty bitter about that. And he was like, I'm going to tell everyone that you offered me bribes. And then Leigh was like, no, you're not. And then he mysteriously disappeared on April 15th, 1926. And no body was found. And the police found a suicide note that they thought was forged, and it read, I'm going to kill myself. I have a small penis, and I suck. No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know.
This is weird. I don't think he wrote this.
Granted, we all know he had a very small penis.
Exactly. That's why his wife wasn't happy.
It was redundant to say it again. God
Yeah,
damn
he
it.
campaigned on it.
I've been drafting my note for years, and now I'm going to have to start from scratch.
Great. Awesome. What a shame. Oh god. So that was like the first of like suspicion around him involving possible murders. But apparently he did a really great job hiding the body that time. And
Allegedly.
Allegedly. And writing an alleged suicide note. So Leigh had a company called Save Our Soil, which SOS, Prickly Pear Poisons Limited. I didn't look too much into this, but Australia had a prickly pear crisis back then. I'm guessing it has to do with the soil.
That sounds very Australian to me.
Yeah.
These prickly pears, they're ruining everything.
Prickly pear crisis.
They're ruining everything.
Prickly pears everywhere you look.
So his business ended up failing, surprise, pretty much resulting in all of his investors losing their money. And Keith Greeder, he was an investor, and he was leading a group of a pocket of shareholders.
Had hairy shoulders.
Who
They're
all
called hair shoulder shareholders.
hair shoulder shareholders.
Oh yeah, of course. Sorry, it's all.
So he wanted them to get compensated for him being an idiot. And then, guess what? Keith Greeder suddenly fell off a ship and drowned. What? That's not funny either. He was like, hey, what's that? And then he was like, ah.
That's of course, the transcript of the incident that was found.
What is that in the sky which did die? Okay.
The transcriber also fell into the ocean.
Yes. And then his problems went away until he created more for himself. And so the next year, a legal firm that Leigh had established had a bunch of allegations of irregular dealings. So a legal partner of his, Hyman Goldstein, it's my problem, not yours. Okay.
I'm going to leave that one. I'm going to leave that one on the field, unbroken, unbreached.
Oh, that took me a minute. Jesus.
It's my problem. Okay. He accused him of this. He accused him of some irregular dealings. I don't know what those are in detail, but I think I had read in another article that he stole the funds and spent the shareholders' money on a vacation with his mistress, which she hasn't been introduced yet, but her name is Maggie, and he is just sleeping with her the whole time. Is with his wife, pretty much, it seems. So that's what happened to the money. And in September 1928, Hyman mysteriously disappears on a twilight stroll.
as it so often happens. Sorry. Ugh.
And for those of you who don't know what twilight is, it's either the time of day where it's like right in the morning when the sun's rising, or kind of near sunset. So,
Or the aforementioned vampire series that we discussed at the beginning. Possibly he was
Exactly.
reading one of Breaking Dawn as he decided to stroll around the grounds.
yep, those, yeah, the original Breaking Dawn. His body was found at the bottom of the Coogee Cliffs. So they found him.
The
At
Kooky
least-
Cliffs.
Yeah.
The Kooky, yeah, that's the name of, it was a Looney Tunes episode, I
The
think. based
Coogee
on that.
Cliffs. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. Let's see. Okay. Lay lost his seat because of suspicions around him in 1928. So I guess everybody was like, he's a murderer, probably. Most likely. But we can't say yet. And so his career in politics was kind of ripped out from under him, and he didn't really want to keep pursuing it. So at 48, he decides to take a new role in life. It's a brave move at 48. He decided to move back to England with his mistress, Maggie Brooke. And her husband was a magistrate, and he also died in mysterious circumstances that have nothing to do with Thomas Lay. And so he goes to England, and it's kind of like the late 1920s, after World War ends, like 10 years later, and just painting the scene here. Women could vote at that time, and so he got there with enough money to buy a property and take advantage of like the business opportunities that were going on. But that wasn't really enough for him, of course, because he really kind of enjoyed making illegal money if he could. So he did a few illegal things. He engaged in some weird real estate dealings, and during World War II, he ran a black market operation, and he got arrested for that and convicted. And after the war, he kind of decided to turn his house into flats. So this is kind of diving into his serious crime.
Being a landlord. That's right.
As opposed to his previous murders, which were, slap on the wrist affairs.
Exactly. But being a landlord, those people are terrible. Terrible. So when he had construction going on, his mistress Maggie lived in a boarding house in Wimbledon, which was about 7 miles away. So one of the other boarders there, he was a 35-year-old man named John Muddy, and he was a bartender at the Reigate Hill Hotel. And he was actually like half Maggie's age, but Lay thought that Maggie was having an affair with him anyways. But they really only had like conversations in passing. So he was just kind of crazy, and he got this fixated in his mind, so he felt that he needed to murder him, because that's what you do when you're jealous, is you get rid of the problem. So
That's another one of those inspirational posters.
Yeah, right now, that was also in the children's library.
listen kids, I'm just saying, if you don't like someone, they don't have to exist anymore. Just make him go away. Yeah.
Also, that was one of my in my book about the Willy Wonka kids. That's also one of the lessons, because Willy Wonka knows it well.
Exactly. If you don't want to, just throw him in the chocolate fountain. I really don't know what is his name? The boy that fell in?
Oh, I know.
Augustus Gloop, I think. Augustus Gloop.
How did he not drown? That's just...
Oh, that's a deleted scene.
What?
The scene where they're netting his bloated corpse out of the chocolate river. Yeah, that was cut.
Oh, really?
I've never actually seen Willy Wonka.
That would be great. You've never... Oh my god.
Yeah.
There's so many references going on.
Piece with it.
Maybe in your vampire class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have to watch like the first 10 minutes of Hunt for Red October before the first assignment. So there might be other things going on.
Willy Wonka could be a vampire. I could buy it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he sort of has a sort of Dracula's castle in the chocolate factory.
He's got minions, you know.
Mm-hmm.
He's a recluse. He
Yeah.
dresses oddly.
He's got a very specific diet.
Yeah.
He is ahead of his time technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Maybe he's a vampire.
That is a spin-off podcast. Theories on how Willy Wonka's a vampire.
Now available in iTunes. Theories on how Willy Wonka's a vampire.
Yay!
It's not the catchiest title, but really, it speaks to our audience, I think.
And yes, and Meryl Streep narrates it, so
Oh.
got a big one for that.
She's finally going after the real fame, podcasting.
Exactly.
Not even podcasting, narrating existing podcasts.
She just does that. That's actually, other countries will do that. They just translate podcasts for their country.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. Oh, these times. Back to the 1920s. Leigh hired John William Buckingham, what a name, and Lawrence John Smith to help with his plan of kidnapping, killing, and getting rid of Muddy. So those two men, they were contractors working on his house, making them into flats, and he convinced them that John Muddy was an evil man, and that he seduced his girlfriend, who's really his mistress, but he was trying to blackmail her. And so those two men thought that that was the case, and in late November 1946, Leigh decided to hire Muddy to basically bartend a party, to lure him into his grabby hands. And when he got there, the men threw a rug over his head, sat him in a chair, and tied clotheslines around his arms, legs, and body. And the way that he ended up dying was that he was strangled. And on November 30th, 1946, a local dog walker found Muddy's body in a chalk pit, making this murder famously known as the Chalk Pit Murder. And he was found 30 miles away from his home. And when investigators got to the scene, there was no mud on Muddy's shoes.
They had a little chuckle to themselves.
There's no mud on Muddy's shoes. Okay.
Oh.
So the investigators, as they do, figured out that he was murdered in a separate location and that his body was dropped there. So the detective superintendent, Fred Shrewbridge, got a team together, and they went to the boarding house that he was staying at in Wimbledon and talked to the landlady, Miss Evans, and confirmed that him and Maggie were connected. So that's how they started putting the pieces together. And after this, there were a bunch of articles on the murder, and John Buckingham started to feel really guilty, and he cracked. He couldn't take it, so he called the Scotland Yard. I don't know if he called them. Maybe he popped in. But he called them and confessed to what happened. That he got £200 for kidnapping John Muddy, but he didn't confess to the murder. So he was not a part of that. And Leigh initially denied everything, and a witness put Lawrence Smith at the chalk pit because they saw him there, and they didn't see John Buckingham, so he was I don't know if he was let go or if he served time. They didn't really talk about that. But Lawrence Smith and Thomas Slay were charged with murder. And on March 19th, 1947, the trial started at the Old Bailey, which is a central criminal court in London. The trial was actually one of the earliest to involve a hitman. That's what they considered it. So everyone was in a ruckus. They were freaking out. It was a pretty big deal. So the defense tried to say that it could have been suicide, you know.
Especially if the body was moved, yeah.
And then they found a letter that said, "I hate myself now."
Just had small dick with shrub.
I don't know. But that was definitely bullshit, and everybody saw through that. So they were prosecuted and sentenced to death. Chuckle, chuckle, chuckle. Ha! Take that, Lay.
And a young O. Henry was sitting in the... I guess he was old or dead by then, actually.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. God, I was thinking about, like, when I first saw his name, I was like, Thomas Lay, more like Thomas never gets laid. God damn it.
Yeah, that was his first campaign slogan. It did not work well.
Sick burn on Thomas Slay.
Screw you, Thomas Lay. The Lord Chief Justice, Lord Goddard, described Lay as a very wicked man. Indeed he was. But 3 days before his hanging, where he was supposed to die, ironically, from the death penalty, he was reassigned to Broadmoor's criminal lunatic asylum. And Lawrence just had to serve a life in prison. So he didn't die either. A little anticlimactic. And on July 24th, 1947, Lay died of a brain hemorrhage at Broadmoor. Yay!
We did it! Gabby, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hello, everybody. I'm JD Lopez, the host of Left Hand Right Brain. It's a free-flowing, wide-ranging conversation that I have with artists doing interesting and creative things here in Denver and beyond. We talk about their personal stories, break down their creative process, and what motivates them. Spoiler alert, it's mostly spite. We talk about all these things and more while kicking back, cracking wise, and always having a good time. You can find old episodes and everything you need to know at lefthandrightbrainpod.com.
Well, here I am with the Funky Fresh, the freshest. Let's
keep this going. Sax solo.
Okay, so the rest of this podcast is just going to be some jazz selections.
It's just people whispering at a table like, can we go? Is this? That's every jazz club.
It is truly about the history that Gabby didn't tell. So,
in a way, it is because the broad strokes of Thomas Lay's life are much as you said. Really, I want to talk about sort of his experience and a little bit of his campaigning. So Thomas Lay was born, as you said, to a successful butler father. His father really had a butlering empire built up. Really, just the most powerful butler you could imagine. And Thomas was born into that. So whatever wealth he had, he inherited at birth from his butler father. And Thomas Lay, he always wanted, but he never thought he could have a career in politics. And it wasn't because he didn't have ideas. He had ideas. Prohibition, non-prohibition, nationalism was a thumbs up for him. So he had ideas. He had the charm. He could talk a cat off a fish cart. and often did. He would talk the cat off the fish cart, charge the cart owner $20, give the cat $5, and that's on to the next fish cart, baby.
Well, I'm glad you stopped to make an extended joke about that super old-timey turn of phrase.
Again, food poisoning.
Yeah, you're obsessed, of course, with the fish that had poisoned the instrument of your poisoning.
The fish draws me in. I've become the fish in a way. But what was holding him back from his dipping his toe into the old political river? Well, it was he thought that his love of murdering people would kind of be a turnoff at the polls. It'd be a great tool for his opponents. But then one day he meets a let's call him fresh-faced political operative named we'll call him Beeve Stannon. Who thinks I can find a way to turn murder into a political positive.
Now, I do have to admit that I am thinking of him looking like Beavis from Beavis and Butthead.
Beeve Stannon.
Yeah. However you want to picture him.
I understand the reference, but it's impossible for me not to.
I'm glad you picked up on that incredibly arcane reference I made. So his first campaign, he was running for the chair of alderman of Boomerang Flats. And his opponent attacked him fiercely in the debates by saying, this man is obviously a serial murderer. And Thomas Lay, after getting coaching from Beeve, responded, the real murderer is the media for murdering my reputation. And so he won, becomes alderman of Boomerang Flats, very corrupt, really sells Boomerang Flats down the river. But then he runs his second campaign, which is, a little bit higher office. He's sort of expanding his sights. And he's running for Spider Wrangler of New South Wales District 6. And again, his opponent was running under the slogan, it's like, this man literally has murdered 5 people. And he's like, well, murder is a part of real Australia. The sort of silent murdering majority. And
sure.
Of course, he wins, doesn't wrangle a single spider. Of course.
Fake.
So spiders are sort of running District 6 for a time. And his sort of ultimate campaign is running for Parliament, where the opponent's slogan was, this man is murdering me right now as we speak. And his, Lay's response was, sure, I'm a murderer, but hey, what about all the other murders that happen? So, people were like, yeah, that makes sense. And he won. And then, on an up note, he's arrested and dies in jail. So, that's the illness-induced alternate history of Thomas.
Sure.
Listeners, before we move on to judgment, I just want to say you can always reach out to us, write us a letter, leave us a comment, ask us a question at revisionistpodcast.com, or on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. Check those out. Just search for Revisionist Podcast. And we are a proud member of the Denver Podcast Network, along with such shows as Denver Orbit, the 2018 winner of Best Podcast from Westward. It's a really good show. It features a lot of different work from a lot of different creative people around Denver. Very, very highly suggest checking that out. So, Denver Orbit. Gabby, you are also a musician, too, and you have this is coming out on the 9th, and you have a show coming up on the 22nd.
I do. It's at your mom's house, not your real mom's house. Stop being silly. Not your stepmom's house, and not even... Anyways, it's at your mom's house in Denver. And
My mom's house isn't so far. This checks out. That's where my
Yeah.
mom's house is.
She lives in Denver, and I think we play around 8. My band's name is TikTok, spelled TIQTOK. We did one of those. All right. It should be really fun. The lineup is full of like really talented bands. Yeah.
And your mom's house is like at 13th and Pearl, like between Pearl and Washington.
Yes. Next to a pizza place.
Next to Benny Blanco's. The pizza I love but can't think about right now because it hurts my stomach.
I'm sorry I did that to you.
No, that's okay. I looked at a banana this morning and I had to run to the bathroom. Which I might edit that out. I might not. Who
Hey,
knows?
that's okay. It's a real thing. Okay.
Thank you.
I've been sick before.
As you cough into a handkerchief and tuberculosis happens. Listeners, as for me, the next sure thing for me is Queen City Companion on March 7th, the all-fall storytelling show. I co-host with...
I wouldn't be so sure. I mean, you say sure thing, but you still got half a bucket of fish heads back there.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to commit seppuku in the fishiest way ever. That'll be March 7th at Mutiny. Co-host that with friend of the show, Jen Colick. And check that out. It's also a podcast. If you look up Mutiny Transmissions, you can find that along with a bunch of other live shows recorded there. So check that out. And, I'll throw in my Twitter, at apparently Brian. I do good work there.
No one does good work on Twitter.
Yeah, no, that's true.
No.
I retweet some great cats, so check that out.
Yeah, Top Cat. That cat that has the snark from the Thundercats.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. Yep, and of course, the little bug.
The cat from Homeward Bound that Sally Field voices.
That cat is surely dead by now.
But is Sally Field?
No, Sally Field.
Sally Field is still alive.
Sally Field. Big ups.
Yeah, no,
Unless
no.
she died extremely recently, and by
Like
that I
in
mean,
between recording and release, yeah.
yeah,
In which
Or-
case...
within the hour or two before we started recording.
Do we have?
That's true. I don't have a news alert set up for Sally Field. But I believe that brings us to judgment for this episode.
You know what? I think that living in 2019, it's obviously very timely to have a story of a corrupt politician on this podcast. But I also don't want to mythologize any corrupt politicians in 2019 because they're mostly dumb assholes who fuck up.
Yeah.
So for that reason, I think I'm going to go with the real history this time and let it be that the real story of this dumb, stupid asshole who went to prison is what we should focus on and remember, and what we should take from history. And this, the year of our our abandoning Lord, 2019.
Hashtag not our Lord. Okay.
Gabby, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course, listeners, voting is now open if you bought your right to vote, which is quite a Thomas Lay move. But for everyone here at The Revisionists, I'm Brian Flynn.
I'm Zach Powers.
Have a good time.